morning. It's 10 o'clock and we are, for a change, in Newcastle. Now, is fur slinking its way back into fashion? Not long ago, the fur trade was literally dead on its feet, I think that's the right phrase, after a sustained campaign by various animal rights groups. But now it seems to be making a comeback on the catwalks. Could it, or should it, return to the high street? We are going to start off the discussion with Jenny, and it might then become extremely lively in the not-too-distant future. Now, you, I rather suspect, are for fur.
Yes, I love my fur. I've had it a very long time. It keeps me warm, and I love it.
Now, what is it that makes you love it so much, bearing in mind the fact that you know a lot of other people have become very strongly anti?
Because I'm heavily into freedom of choice and freedom of speech and democracy. And if I want to wear this, or tights, or take my knickers off, whatever I want to do, it's my business. What other people want to do with their lives and whatever, it's their business. I'm English, I live in England. If I can't wear the winter coat of my choice and walk safely down the street, what have we got, a dictatorship?
How many years have you owned that fur?
10 years. And it's older than 10 years.
So you bought it at about the time when the anti-fur campaign was going on?
I think just before.
Just before?
Maybe just before, yeah. I've also got a jacket, a mink jacket.
And you're determined to stick to it?
Oh, I've been punched at, spat, kicked for wearing a coat of my choice, and I have not stopped wearing it. And I would not expect to walk up to other people and say, God, how dreadful you're wearing a fake fur. It looks ghastly, it looks synthetic. Why don't you take it off? I wouldn't dream of telling people what to do. This is England.
But really, walking down a high street on a summer's day, you had people go for you?
It was a freezing, bitterly cold day.
It was a cold day.
I was absolutely frozen. I was in Cambridge. I had my 8-year-old daughter by my side. And a 6'4" guy, dressed in army fatigues, walked up to me throwing bits of paper. And I said, no thanks, I'm shopping. And he said, he actually stood up. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry for the boom.
Sorry about that.
And I'm sorry for her hair. Yeah. It's all right, don't worry.
And you can see I'm quite small. I'm quite small.
Yes.
He's 6'4", and he said, hey, Michael, he said, if you don't take this card, I'll put it down your throat.
Really?
And it was a Lynx card.
Good. Right.
And my child, by the way, was screaming and yelling by my side, 8 years old. So he loved animals, but he hated my child and he hated me. Don't do that, boom. Boom.
It's such a blatant show of exhibitionism in all my life.
It's the truth.
I have never ever. The programme is supposed to be about fur. It isn't about you. You are not the star of this programme. We're supposed to be debating whether or not fur is going to
Can I have the boom?
Lighten up.
May I ask our boom operator? No, come on, loves. No, stop it.
Showing your ignorance.
Stop it now. You can have the argument later on, but if you mind. May I just ask the boom operator, are you okay, chap? Yeah, everything all right? Good, right. Excellent. Now, can I turn to other ladies who are clearly rather involved in fur?
I absolutely agree with Jenny. I am here because I'm totally naffed off by having people come up. Oh, I'm sorry.
Why are you naffed off?
I'm naffed off because I have the same feelings as Jenny. There are people who eat meat. I'm vegetarian, right? I do not go snatching steaks. I don't throw things through people's window. I am particularly anti-Lynx. I've had eggs thrown at me. Incidentally, when I was in a fake fur, and they are too ignorant, half of them. You're speaking of ignorance, darling, you haven't lived.
No, well, listen, please.
No, but that annoyed me.
Yes, all right, well, yes, but please calm.
Because they say they're so ignorant, they don't often know when you've got a real fake on and when you've got a real fur on. I mean, they're just as insulting to either way.
They pick on women. I mean, if men were walking down the road in a wolf coat, I'm sure they're not going to pick on the chaps.
And they're never charming.
Just bullying tactics.
They're never nice to you. They never say, look, why do you wear that? It makes me feel sick or something, in which case I'd still say it's none of your business. But it's always nasty, aggressive people who come and push you or come and call you an effing bitch.
How many years have you owned your fur?
I've had fur all my life. I'm not really...
And do you want to stick to it for the rest of your life?
I certainly will, and I won't be intimidated.
And you?
Yes, certainly. And I won't be bullied by other people. Perhaps if they want to try and convince people, well, most people are against, well, everybody's against cruelty, hopefully. This isn't about cruelty. This is about the right to wear something. Farming a mink isn't a lot different to farming a chicken.
What I'd like
No,
to...
hang on. Farming a mink is not that different to farming a chicken. Explain
But
that.
farming a chicken is
let her
cruel,
say
you
it.
silly woman. Farming a chicken is cruel.
Do you eat chicken?
No, I don't eat chicken.
Obviously, it's nice to be idealistic and turn everything into a real
How you
world.
do-
But people
How are you
eat-
doing out there? As you can see,
From a
it's going to
mink
get a little
farm.
bit
This is from a mink
hectic.
farm.
Stay
It's not
cool.
a free-range
Do you know
mink.
what happens to these minks? Do you
Yes,
know
I
the
do.
Are you
cages they're
for...
kept in?
No, listen, love. Could you please let other people have a go? You will get your opportunity. Just, are you for or
Personally,
against
I'm not
fur?
pro or anti-fur in such, because I believe wearing fur is a matter of personal taste.
Yes.
But what I think, I think this debate's becoming very subjective and a matter of personalities, when really what I want to know is this debate about, people's choice, or is it about animal rights in general? And there's a lot of people sitting here on the anti-fur who I've noticed are wearing the odd bits of leather. And what I want to know is, if it's about animal rights, if they're against wearing a fur as being a matter of animal rights, what differentiates between the right of a cow, a pig or a sheep, whatever the shoes are made of, and the right of a mink? Because as far as I'm concerned, animals have no rights. Only human beings have rights.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to this side. I want one last person to give me one last view. Is this fur?
That is fur, that's lamb. And most people haven't got the sense to realise that a product has died for food before it's been turned into a coat. And they haven't got the sense to realise that the men that wear leather jackets and criticise it are wearing in reverse that is leather.
Yes.
Right. So
And they
you're-
haven't got the sense to pick out that hasn't died to
So
become a
you're
coat.
saying if people are wearing leather shoes,
They've
you have got
leather
the same
coats,
right
they've got the
to
same
wear a
rights to
lamb's
wear a
fur
fur.
coat.
Plus, they have smashed a multi-million-pound business that hundreds of families relied on for their living. And those people, and now we've got a skill that has completely gone out of England. And you have to rely on the continent to bring this stuff in.
Right, I am now going to turn to this side to get the counter views, and the argument, I'm sure, will become hectic, but let me start off with you. Against, let me ask you the simple question, why?
I'm from a group called Respect for Animals. We're a group that campaigns against the fur trade. The reason why is because if you're wearing fur, you're wearing the skins of animals which have been killed just for fashion. It takes up to 40 animals to make a fur coat. Those animals either suffer in traps in the wild where they're caught, or they're caged in tiny wire cages on fur factory farms. And there are 24 fur factory farms in Britain where mink and Arctic fox are kept in tiny wire cages, which drives them mad. Animal behaviourists and the government's own welfare body have said this, before being gassed or lethally injected just for fur. It's wrong to wear fur, it's unnecessary, and we want to see the fur trade banned worldwide, just in the way that other trades where wildlife is killed for fashion have been banned.
Yes, but don't slap.
No, can I please, before you start having the argument, get another view from somebody else on this side, and then you can start going at each other. Could you explain why you are against?
Well, I'm very strongly against fur. I'm from the charity Beauty Without Cruelty, and we've been campaigning for around 34 years against wild-caught fur. That is fur that is trapped in the wild for fashion garments.
Yes.
And we have advocated the use of cruelty-free alternatives during that period.
I mean, what is the significance of this rather large instrument that you're carrying?
This is a padded leg hold trap, which is used. This is the humane version. The original version had teeth. This one has been padded with rubber. And it actually takes an enormous amount of effort. There's a very tight spring on it. And it is used to actually catch creatures like this. Red fox. Its paw is actually caught in the leg hold trap. And it has to stay there until the trapper manages to get back to the trap, which can be up to a week or longer. So the animal is in agony in the trap. It is suffering. And it will, in its attempt to escape, try and chew its leg off, and quite often succeeds. It then goes off, and it has a terrible dark time. It may bleed to death in the wild.
So, I mean, as far I think, if I may gently say so, I think even people who like fur on this side would still feel that the use of that kind of trap is wrong.
It is. But excuse
The
me,
lady in
that's
red there.
in
Now,
1800s. That's
can
not
the
fair.
lady
They
in
don't use fur. They don't use fur
can
like
the lady in
that.
red
Okay,
have the,
ban the use of the machine then. I personally do not agree with furs, but I believe in the freedom of choice. My sister also has been taunted off the street from wearing her fur. I don't agree with that sort of thing. Terrified, spat at, groups, not just single people, groups of people, getting round her and back. Okay, ban that sort of thing. Try and put many more restrictions on how we kill the animals, how we farm them. Fine, no problem.
So,
Right, now can if I may...
context for the conservation of all wildlife, not just the fur animals. Zimbabwe, might be a relevant country, has just shipped rhinoceroses to Australia. Now, no one here is wearing, I guess, rhinoceros products.
It would be rather difficult to wear a rhinoceros coat.
Not if you came from, say, Yemen or China, where these hair products are used as aphrodisiacs. Now, in that country, they want rhino fur. In this country, we use other animals. But by wearing these fur coats, it sends a very clear signal. It's actually really okay to wear these products, which sends a signal to the poachers in Africa, which makes it very difficult to conserve all wildlife. It's a nudge, nudge, wink, wink signal. It's actually really okay to poach.
All right, well, now, may I move to what seems to me to be a sensitive, well-sorted debate? I've got a 15-year-old son and his mum.
Yes.
The 15-year-old son, for reasons you will explain, is against fur.
Yeah.
And you have persuaded your mum.
Slowly I have.
Right. Tell us what made you feel against and what it is that's made you campaign.
Usually she used to use me in her fashion shows. And when I went to school, I came home one day and I just told her not to wear it. So slowly she's listened to me. I listened to her all the other times, but on this thing, I'm not going to listen to her.
So you actually became quite a strong campaigner against your mother?
Yep.
And against anybody else, but he doesn't go up to people and tell them what to do. Now, I wear fur coats. This isn't mine, however. I wish it was, but I love fur coats, and I think people should wear and do what they want to do without anybody else telling them that they look ugly, they look this. It's freedom. You should be able to do what you like.
But you nonetheless, whilst you still love fur coats, on the other hand, recognise that your son has persuaded you.
What's happened now is I had a fur coat that was hanging up in a room because I hadn't worn it, debating whether to wear it or not, because my son, every time I went out, said, I'm not going to go with you if you're going to wear that. And so I hung this coat up and I took it out to a dance. When I picked it up to take home, a mouse was in it. And it had been in there all night and I'd been sitting on it. So I had that fur coat. It was just left in this room. And so I decided I didn't know what to do with it. And it was a second-hand coat, a fox fur. It was lovely. But, I just don't know what to do with him. He just says, don't wear your coats when you're with me.
Okay, now, if I may, I'm going to come to this lady who I know is very angry on the whole issue. And if I may say to you, you've heard this story of a sensitive 15-year-old lad having a good conversation with his mum and sorting something. Now, is that something that you would regard as being the kind, the right, the okay fashion which is acceptable?
I think it's marvellous that this young boy is trying to change his mother's views. By the way, I'm from Compassion in World Farming, which campaigns against the intensive rearing of any animal, whether it be for food or for the fashion trade.
So you're against beef, you're against lamb, you're against pork?
The intensive farming of any animal. The intensive farming, factory farming of
So
any
you're against
animal.
you're against chicken laying hundreds of eggs, you're against
Chickens
all of
being
that?
kept in cages, minks being kept in cages, foxes being kept in cages. Unfortunately, it's marvellous that this lady has brought this trap along. I hope this has shamed these people here. I hope they are aware whether their furs came from traps such as that. It's a pity that I wasn't able to bring... Do you mind just a moment? Do you mind? Do you mind just a moment?
Love, can I...
It's an awful shame that I wasn't able... It's an awful shame that I wasn't able to bring along a few cages to let you see what sort of life the animals that are kept in cages have. Now, their coats are either made from animals that are caught in those, which are absolutely barbaric, and you've heard how long it takes these animals to die, and the way in which they do die. They don't fare any better when the trappers come back, because usually they put a boot to the throat to kill them.
You're actually saying you're not against producing minks for fur coats. You're just against the intensive farming. You're not actually against producing chickens or minks.
I am against fur in any shape, size or
any animal farming
I wish they had
whatsoever.
seen the cages in which the minks are bred. The animals are left in a barren cage, and that is their whole life. They are deprived of being able to do anything that comes natural to them at all.
I have to
anything.
ask you...
It is an existence. It is not a life.
I have to
and
ask...
it's so that they can stand there in their fur coats, which look absolutely atrocious.
I have to ask you... hang on. I have to ask you a very sensitive question, but I'm going to ask it. I want to know why it is that you get so angry. Because I'm sorry to say,
I
but you do get angry.
don't understand how anybody can't get angry. I'm so angry. These
why?
people have
Why?
seen the wildlife programmes on the television. They have seen the animals that they're wearing on the back. They have seen the traps used. They've seen, if they haven't seen mink in cages, they've certainly seen chickens in cages. It's the same sort of thing. And yet they insist on, I don't go around putting bricks in windows or anything. I try to argue properly within the law.
You try to argue. Okay,
People's back up to make people wear them just to defy your attitude. Your attitude is very bad. You're not prepared to discuss. You're not prepared to discuss.
Let us try to move to. Are you going to give us a calm debate or an angry one?
I'm going to give you a calm one.
Good.
Although I must say that I am angry. I am angry about animal suffering. I'm angry about the way children suffer. And I don't think compassion can be put into little pockets that you can feel compassion about animals and not about children. I feel compassion on many issues. And I certainly feel compassion for any animal in intensive farming because it's totally unnatural. It imposes severe psychological stress. And we have to face this, that if we eat battery eggs, if we wear fur coats, if we eat battery hens, battery chickens, we are supporting a cruel system. And we have to be honest and say then, we are cruel and we don't care about the cruelty.
Okay, now I want one counter view before I go to a fashion expert. Who wants to... You want to give the counter view to that?
Yes, please.
Right.
I would just like to speak on behalf of the little old ladies who have inherited their furs, bought their furs. I mean, looking round the opposition, quite frankly, they're not, few of them are as old as my stole. You've got to be 54 years of age to have been born when this stole.
I'm over 60.
Well,
And
correct.
I'm nearly 60.
With some exceptions. But, you know, why should little old ladies hope to wear their fur coats on cold metro stations to keep warm and be subject to a lot of abuse?
Okay, well now can I move to Simon Young? Because I would quite like to try to put bits of the jigsaw together. You're a fashion expert, correct? Working in the fashion business.
In the fashion business, yes.
You have heard very substantial views and counter views. Now, where do you stand in terms of wanting to have the manufacture and the sale of fur coats in the year 1993?
I personally am anti-fur, and I think on the whole the fashion industry is very anti-fur as well. I think you hit the nail on the head when you started this debate when you said there seems to be a resurgence in the popularity of fur, which I think is something that the media has picked up on. I think if you look at the top designers' catwalks, there are very few showing fur, if any at all. In fact,
There's a lot of fur on the catwalks this year.
Which designers is there? There's a lot of fake fur, there's a lot of leather, and there's a lot of, which is a side product from the meat industry. I mean, I myself wear leather shoes, I wear leather jackets. I agree with what you're saying about the lamb coat, but there are very few mink or fox furs. There are fake furs, there are luxury fabrics. There's a big movement towards, towards luxury fabrics, towards Baroque prints, towards luxury fibres, Angora, cashmere, camel, those sort of fibres, very warm and luxurious. But there aren't many designers at all showing fur. And virtually every British designer, every fashion show, every sponsored auction that links who respect for animals have picked their baton up, so to speak. Virtually every show that they organised was supported by British designers. Every British designer sent an outfit. I'm sure you'll back me up on this. Sent outfits for auction for catwalk show.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to put the jigsaw together, as I said before. I want to ask: a lot of you own fur coats, which you have owned for many years, before the big confrontation developed. So let's accept that. How many people on this side have bought fur coats in recent years since the confrontation. You have? Yes. So even though you know there was a very substantial campaigning issue against the buying of fur.
I have a 3/4 length mink, which my mother gave me.
Well, so that is something you could accept as a thing of the past?
I wore it a lot. I wear it with jeans. I wear it to go into the shopping. My husband bought me this 3 years ago. He thought it was absolutely beautiful. I agree with him. I do think it's absolutely beautiful. What I would like is the freedom of choice to wear it. I have never gone out and somebody has said, you look ugly, you look awful. In fact, so many women have said, I love it, isn't it beautiful? I would love to wear mine, but I'm scared. And that's what I'm here to say. I don't want to be scared to wear my coat. I want to be able to wear it because it's my choice.
It's simply a matter of freedom of choice.
But would you?
That's not the issue. The point about wearing fur coats is that it represents something.
Because we're doing what we want to do.
Of course, that can't be defended. That's not the issue.
May I go to that nice? May I go before? May I go before the break to this nice, quiet lady here who will say something meaningful and then we'll go into the break. Go on. Say something meaningful and don't let them shout at you, for God's sake.
If they'll let me finish, I'll try. I worked in the fur industry for 12 years.
Oh. Now, still?
I don't anymore.
Right. Talk
I witnessed the cruelty from the opposition firsthand, not cruelty to animals. We had some terrible attacks on the shop. Bullet holes, fire bombs, acid attacks, physical, verbal abuse. Now, to me, that's cruel. It's cruel. Despite several attacks, we continued to remain in business and people did buy furs.
So have you stopped now? Because I've got to go into the break.
The business has stopped.
It packed up. It went bust.
But people were coming to the shop and they were intent on buying a fur coat despite what these people were going to do. It was their money and they were going to buy what they wanted. If you don't believe in it, then you don't buy one. If you do believe in it, then you buy one. You vote with your money, with your pocket.
Right. Well, there is a lady who is delivering a philosophical view, which is that whatever the ordinary member of the public wants, whether it's for or against, they have the right to go their own way. In part two, I'm going to be talking to this lady. Her name is Sue Ferguson. Well, never mind the menopause. What about fur? We're moving quickly. We've got to move quickly. You are unemployed. Yeah. You're an income support. Yeah. You have got how many fur coats?
I have 4 fur coats.
Why? Why are you not selling them to make yourself enough money to be better off?
Who's going to buy fur? I keep my furs to keep me warm. Synthetics don't keep you as warm as fur. Fur breathes. Your body does not get cold in fur.
You don't get cold in synthetics.
Yes, you do. I've got excuse me, please, I've got a synthetic ocelot coat which has been slashed to ribbons down the back by anti-fur campaigners.
So even though, I've got to move fast, even though you are unemployed and you do find the financial crisis, you believe that it's essential to keep it.
And woolly bed socks. That's how I keep warm in my house. In this.
Does the same apply to you?
I'm a pensioner on income support. I can't heat my house. I'm without heating, without hot water in the winter, and I was very ill last winter with bronchitis, and this coat kept me alive. I lived in it. And when we're talking about, I mean, I don't use this for fashion. I use it to keep me warm, and I think I should be allowed to wear it. And I also feel about when they were burning fur coats in Trafalgar Square, they should have given those fur coats to people on income support, to old people who need them. This coat is 50 years old.
Can I say, although I'm pro fur, I have this one here which is nearly 40 years old. I would not buy this now because that is pure vanity. This is pure practicality. That is vanity.
She wants to buy.
If they're that cold, they should try the Army and Navy stores where the second-hand army stuff is just as warm.
I think all this is irrelevant if they're wearing it to keep warm or not. Even though I am pro fur, I'm pro people's choice to wear fur. But fur is historically, in this century, it has been classed as a luxury garment. So it's irrelevant whether they're wearing it to keep warm, whether they're wearing it because they like it, because they have the right to wear it for whatever reason. You know, they can't defend it on the grounds to keep warm because there are synthetics which would keep you just as warm.
The gentlemen think it's very...
We're moving fast. Hang on, please. Whoa. You have the right to give one counter view and then stop, if you would, about what you regard as the violence which goes on against people who are wearing fur. Tell me what you think.
Everyone's been talking about freedom of choice. I just want to say, if you choose to wear fur, that's a bloody choice, because your choice means that 50 million animals a year are being killed for fur. With respect to the violence, I am against the violence. What we want to happen is for people to be convinced by peaceful campaigning, by the facts. Find out the facts about trapping, find out the facts about how appalling conditions are on fur factory farms where animals are caged in deprived conditions and then killed. And then most people choose not to wear fur. And over 80% of people in this country no longer wear it.
Right. Enough. One sentence from this man before I move to a rather clever situation. If you could just give me one, sorry, because we've got to move fast.
Well, before I say anything, I'd like to say that these are totally synthetic. I haven't worn leather for years. I don't consume any animal products, and I've been working in the animal liberation movement for a number of years. And as far as I'm concerned, this issue isn't about choice. Animals have no democracies. Animals have no choice. 80% of people in this country disagree with wearing fur. It's immoral. Most people think it's outrageous. It's got to be banned now. It's outrageous and it's cruel.
Hang on. No, sorry, I'm moving on to something important. I've got a police constable here who has listened to this shouting match, and he knows of a particular situation which he can deal with, which I think is a very clever one. Could you tell
perhaps
people?
I can sort of allow things to calm down a bit. Yes, in my spare time I run an organisation which is called Northeast Aid to Romania, and our big problem is trying to help an institute which is up in the Carpathian Mountains in Transylvania, which houses just under 100 mentally and physically handicapped children and adults. There's no adequate sanitation in the institute, there's no adequate heating, and because of the appeals that I put out, particularly in the northeast of England, the northeast people have been great. We've had a fantastic response. A lot of warm clothing has been donated, and an awful lot of furs have come in as well. Now, as much as I empathise with the people who are in anti-fur trade, people who are against any misuse of animals, you've got to understand that the people that I take this clothing and these furs out to are people who, they're not going to wear them for fashion. It's basically for warmth, for nothing else.
To stay alive. To stay alive.
I would much prefer if people gave me the money to put a proper heating system into the institute. But until such times as I've got that cash, I've got no alternative. Beggars can't be choosers. I'll take fur coats if it's going to keep people warm.
No, hang on. But don't do a debate about that. What the gentleman has done is a very clever situation. He knows there are furs which cannot be sold. He has the sense and he has the ability and the cleverness to get them to people who are dying, which I would salute you for, frankly. Can I move on, please?
Research destroyed thousands of fur coats over the winter rather than send them abroad to people who needed them.
I'm going to fake fur. Okay. Could you present your arguments, which I hope might calm down this programme, for fake fur?
We're both fashion students, and we've brought along here hangers, which are fake fur. They're really good representations of fur, but we'd hope that in this society now that young people are educated enough to realise that real fur is hideous. You know, these animals are dying. Why do you need a fake fur? A real fur when you've got fake. That's a good. Real fur is just for vanity and for profit. It's for vanity's sake. It looks
like. She hasn't had much chance to say anything. Can she say a little more? And I'll come to you looking angry then, if I may. Could say a little more, dear.
Well,
go and tell.
It doesn't. I mean, fake fur can be just for fun as well. You know, they can be green things. It doesn't have to be this realistic thing. You know, but. It's cheaper. It's.
But do you believe it is? I mean, they are saying with some substantial feeling that it's not warm enough, and that they believe real fur is better. Now, what is your view?
But I don't think that you need. I think there's plenty of the wool, for example, that's warm.
That's
you
fake
don't.
fur?
I've been sat here for about 10 minutes in this, and I'm absolutely boiling. I'm
but
sorry.
then it's a very hot studio.
No, I'm sorry. There's no comparison. There's no comparison because
It's your choice, isn't it, sweetie?
yes, it is my choice, but I don't involve animals.
Right.
Do
No,
chickens
no,
have a
they
choice?
don't have a choice. Animals
Does
don't
bees
have a
have a choice?
No,
What
that's why
about
they
tennis
hate it.
rackets?
Yeah.
Are you going to?
Excuse me, can we
Are you going to
speak?
say something gentle and firm and understanding? Would you try to?
I'd just like to say, I think it's just all sheer vanity. What we have here is a lot of eccentric old women trying to make themselves look smart. With the exception of one or
Let me
two.
ask you the difficult question. That sounds to me like a very rude thing to say to you. Why are you against them? Why are you against these ladies?
It's just sheer cruelty.
But if you choose to do your thing, why shouldn't they choose to do theirs?
I just disagree with the way. They just make themselves up to be fools, look like me.
But even if they've been owning a fur coat for 40 years, when there was no campaigning issue against furs, if they have owned a fur coat all their lives, what makes you feel so angry with them?
That just looks. It's just not right, you know. I've been brought up to understand that animals should be treated rightly, correctly.
Educated to country trust. Not educated to realise. Do you know what makes good?
We've got 4 seconds left. That's it.